happens frequently is somebody has an affair. Whoever was cheated on is fucking pissed. The person who had the affair is fucking sorry. And nobody knows whether or not it's going to work, but they decide we'd like to see if it's going to work.
Right.
So let's do couples counseling. So it's really like this trial period of, can I trust you ever again? What can I forgive you ever again? Like what's going to happen here? Yeah. And I would tell you that in my opinion, the answer is you will not forget, you will not forgive, and you will not trust this person again. You have to think about it like that relationship is, in my opinion, the relationship is dead, and you have to now decide, do I want to start another relationship with this person? I'm in sunny California in San Diego with my in-laws.
Nice.
And I've peeled off to have an all-important conversation with you about infidelity.
All right.
And I've been thinking about what's the right way to make a transition to this conversation. And I thought, Rob, maybe you'd like to confess. So do you have a confession you'd like to share for our listeners?
No confessions necessarily, but when you said that you wanted to do a two-parter on infidelity, it did make me wonder, Dave, why is this such an interest of yours? And particularly,
why the fixation?
Yeah, particularly this episode where we will talk more about why in a relationship, what to do. So I was wondering the same thing. Is this a way to kind of navigate some own personal issues that you're just kind of uncertain about, or that you don't want to divulge to me one-on-one? You prefer to do it nationally to a podcast audience?
Yes. No, I am. This is in reaction to. So if you haven't listened to it, you should go listen. We did an episode in reaction to the Coldplay concert where the CEO of Astronomer and the CPO of Astronomer were having an affair in public and got caught. And we were talking about what leads to affairs. Mm-hmm. And as a follow-up from that, we're going to talk about, okay, so if an affair happens, how should you respond to it? Sort of on both sides. If you're the one that was cheated on, or if you're the one that was the cheater, what should you do? Mm-hmm.
So Dave, I mean, all jokes aside, do you know people, like friends or family members, who are in one of those roles, have been cheated on or have been the cheater before?
Yeah, I know. I know some family and I know some friends that have, but I would say as it relates to family and friends, I've been less aware of like the emotional details.
Yeah.
But when I worked as a therapist and as I work as a coach, I feel like I've gotten more exposure to it. In particular, as a therapist, I used to do couples counseling. And I've had on 2 occasions where a couple came in after an affair, and multiple times where someone had been cheated on and then sought counseling afterwards.
Yeah.
So I've been exposed to it I've seen the carnage created by it. And I have some strong opinions about what people, that sounds real judgy. I mean, I have some judgments about it, but I have some suggestions about what's maybe the best way to handle or respond to an affair.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you exposed to it?
Yeah, I have some family members who have been in that situation before, as far as I know, as the person who was cheated on. So I am aware of, to your point, some of the emotional consequences of those situations. And in my work, similar as a coach with some leaders who have shared that with me before. But I think, you'll have some even more interesting stories given your kind of work in marriage and family counseling.
Yeah.
So,
I've
it has been interesting just to see some of the reactions to folks. And it does make me think, God, I don't know how I would react in that situation.
No, I mean, it is devastating. And I think it is whenever I've been sort of intimately involved in it, the devastation is almost beyond what you would intellectually comprehend.
Yeah.
Right. Like the emotional, it's just carnage.
Mm-hmm.
So like my first piece of advice would be, and I think this sounds pretty generic, but I think it's true. The first piece of advice is to allow yourself to feel you are grieving. You are grieving the course or the state of your relationship. It is over. You can make an argument for that you're going to stay together and you're going to start a new relationship, fine. But the relationship as you know it is gone, and you are grieving it like something has died. So
Yeah.
all of the typical sort of stages of grief that you would think about if someone were to have died, it's the same thing that you're going to experience if someone has an affair.
Yeah.
So you have to honor that process.
Yeah, that resonates with me. If I just take it personally, if that were to happen, if Jen were to come and tell me today, I had an affair. When we're talking about affairs, I think I go straight to like a physical relationship with someone. Yeah, I'd have a lot of reactions, but to your point, I mean, God, I've known her for over half of my life.
Yeah.
And I have this certain picture of her in my head. I have this set of experiences with her, and I think my reaction would be similar to that, like of a death, in part because I would start questioning everything I thought I knew. It would remove I would probably stop trusting certainly her, but even I would probably start to struggle to trust myself. Like, all right, well, who can I trust now if I can't trust this person who I thought I could trust with anything?
Right.
There would be some self-doubt in there.
Yeah, if you're such a bad read of people that you didn't clock it when this person was having an affair, then how can you justify you trusting yourself ever again? Your intuition must be off, right? Like people get absolutely turned inward on it. Yeah. So I think the process is always very long. It's very painful, and the grief, I think, it's important to say the grief is very real. And one of the things that people will want to do when they've been cheated on is to sort of go, okay, I should have moved. It's been 6 months, or it's been a year, or it's been 2 years. I should be over this thing now and move on. And I would say that the best practice is to allow yourself to sort of organically experience the emotions tied to the affair. How you feel if you've been cheated on is a very reasonable. They're very reasonable emotions.
Yeah.
Whether they're anger or sadness or whatever, anxiety. Totally reasonable.
I would also think that, just like a lot of other traumatic experiences for people, having opportunities or outlets to talk about this, certainly with a therapist, either individually or as a couple, would be helpful. But also finding, outlets with family or friends to have these conversations just to get some of that emotion out of there. Because, otherwise, a lot of spinning. I can imagine having those types of situations where you start to question yourself and you go down a lot of dark rabbit holes. And so getting a lot of that out there would be helpful.
And people are oftentimes, it's funny, I've seen people go both ways. One way is they're embarrassed about it, so they don't want to share it with anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Or the other way where they feel like this constant need to share and they're hoping to be validated. Right. Like it's an interesting dynamic if you don't know how to deal with this horrible thing that happened to you. And on the other end, if you're hearing somebody tell you about an affair, right, I think what most people want to do is either say it's no big deal, like it's fine, skip over it, or that person is the devil and I hate that person and I always hated that person. And what happens oftentimes if you take that person's the devil path, you're also like affirming the fact that the person who's been cheated on was a bad read of character.
Yeah.
Which it makes it really difficult to know like how to land. If you're a friend, what do you say that's comforting?
Oh yeah, that's tricky. Yeah.
And so the answer really is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've had some acquaintances in those situations before. And they're acquaintances because friends of mine were more in those situations and like, all right, I don't know what to say. And maybe this is where you're going to go. But I don't know, my answer, this is 10 years ago. 10 years ago is probably not my answer today. My answer 10 years ago was, just be whatever that person needs you to be. But right now, yeah, you do have to. It's a bit of a tightrope walk. Like, you don't want to say too much. You do want to be there and be supportive, but there's still a chance that relationship is able to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't want to be the person who was shitting on the significant other if the relationship is able to be repaired.
Yeah. I would tell you that the path where you're not going to make a mistake is to just experience the grief with the person. If they're sad, you say, I'm sad. If they're angry, you say you're angry. Like, try and walk with them in whatever the emotion is. Your job is not to change the course of somebody else's emotional experience. It's to be with them in that emotional experience.
Yep.
And I would also say that as a therapist, as a coach, what I will frequently say is something like, do you want me to tell you how awful this person is, or do you want me to be supportive? And I'll just ask that question, and they'll tell you, just be supportive, or they'll say, I'd like you to tell me how awful they are. And then good news, I got lots of things I can say. But people will oftentimes be able to they'll articulate to you what they're looking for in your interaction with them.
Well, and I think that, that makes a ton of sense too, is, what people want probably changes. Maybe at the beginning, when you're, again, in that spiral, you just want to hear how that person's a terrible person. And then over time, once you're assuming you're able to get over that, you don't want to hear that as much anymore. Mm-hmm. So what someone may need from you, if you're a friend or family member, could change over time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that, which brings me to the next sort of point is, if you've been cheated on, I would tell you to try to not make any significant decisions, in my mind, for 3 months. Like don't get divorced. Don't go buy a new house. Don't sell your many people have the reaction where, like, well, fuck this person. I'm selling the house, taking the kids. I'm moving to Vermont or whatever. I'm going to change my life drastically, immediately, as a concept, like, in an effort to punish the person who had the affair. Yeah. And it's better to just, like, force yourself to slow down so that you can make a decision that is not emotion driven. If you catch yourself being emotional, making choices in general, not a good idea.
That's what I was going to say, is I think that's just good advice, regardless of the situation which you find yourself. If you feel like you are very emotionally triggered, that is not the time to make bigger decisions about where your life is going, because they may not be very well thought through. In fact, they probably won't be. But I can understand the instinct to do something like that, especially in this situation. Yeah, to move out, to hire a lawyer immediately, whatever it is, because there's a lot of pain there, and you want to get that pain out of there.
Yeah. And that does not mean, I guess this is the next thing. It does not mean that you shouldn't be setting boundaries, right? So you can move out of your house to an apartment close by. Right. You can change your relationship. You can say, I don't want to talk to you. Like, you should protect yourself. Right. I just have horror stories tied to this where, someone's been cheated on and they move quickly to, well, why did this happen? And the person who had the affair does this, like, the standard routine, which is, I'm so sorry, it's my fault. But it is representative of a problem in our relationship. And the problem is, like, we weren't having enough sex. And then the person who's been cheated on now feels like, oh, it's because I wasn't putting out, and I'm going to have sex with you now in an effort to try to save this. And it turns into this sick thing where the person who is the abuser, the person who had the affair, is then using that to manipulate the relationship to get more of what they want. Right. And so I think it is important to stick to your guns with whatever the boundaries are that you want to set. Does that make sense?
So it does make me think, like, at what point, if you're in that situation, if you have been cheated on, would you ask why? Why did that happen? Like, why did you do that?
I think I'm curious what you think. My reaction is that you have the right to ask whatever you want to know. Yes. And you should ask right? And that means with who, for how long, and what did you do specifically? If you think that the details will help you, process it, then you should be able to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is not the same. Like, I'm not sure I'm like, if you ask me about like relationships, I'm probably in the bucket of more mystery, less history when it comes to, I don't think you need to know your marital partner's every romantic interaction before you met them.
Yeah.
I
I've
feel like
never
that's a
heard
bad
that,
idea.
but I like that. More mystery, less history. All right.
Yeah, I don't think it serves you to know, that when they were in high school, they were into Jimmy. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't serve you. But if you were in a relationship and they broke your trust, they broke whatever the contract was that you had, then I think you have the right, in my opinion, immediately to ask what happened, why it happened.
I agree. I'm just thinking for the person in that situation, like, there's not a right answer to this, but when do you do that? Like, is it right away? Probably not. That probably is not a great time to dive into all of that. And maybe this is just me thinking through what I would do in this situation, is I would need some time, a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, just to be ready to ask that question, because I would want to know. I would want to know right away, but I probably would not be able to handle it right away. But I would want to know over time, like, what happened and why did it happen, in a way that I could hopefully try to understand a bit more.
And I think that there's two parts of it, right? Was like, what sordid activities were you involved in? And also, what about our relationship led you? Why did you go and why did you involve yourself in those things?
Yeah. And I guess
you know what I mean?
For me, and maybe this is the wrong way to think about it, but I go straight to, well, there has to be a deeper reason why. Like, there's something happening that causes this. And maybe the answer is no, like, it was it was just a right time, right place type of situation. And there was not a deeper, I would find that hard to believe, but I guess that's an answer.
Yeah.
I mean, right. Yeah. Have you encountered a situation before where there wasn't like a deeper reason why? Like, again, not enough sex, or not enough emotional availability, or, growing apart, but, kids are, in high school, so we don't want to break up the marriage. Like, there's some stereotypical reasons why these things happen, but.
Yeah. So I think in every case that I've interacted with it, there's always been an explanation for what happened.
Yeah.
But I always feel, and this is maybe just my judgment on it, but I always feel like the excuse of, I am whatever, self-sabotage, or the excuse of we're not having enough sex, or the excuse of, you haven't taken care of yourself the way that I've taken care of myself, or those kinds of things, like those excuses.
Yeah.
All, like, the undercurrent of those excuses in my mind all fall into the category of, I'm a selfish prick. And I feel like that that's how and this is my bias, but that's how I look at it. And I know selfish prick sounds like it's always the man that's cheating, but it's not always the man that's cheating. But the person who is cheating is even in like, I've had cases where someone was on a work trip and got drunk and did something that they shouldn't have done, and they didn't mean to. But when you hear about the story, like, oftentimes, well, you put yourself in a position where that was gonna, like, you
Gonna increase the likelihood.
Right. You removed all of the barriers to this thing happening because you kind of wanted it to happen, and because you were not disciplined about your relationship or whatever. So, I caution, we're going to talk next here about, like, well, what do you do if you want to stay in the relationship? And a big part of that is figuring out, well, what was broken in the relationship? And I hesitate around that because I worry that it shares responsibility for the affair. And I, like, at my core, believe that the person who is responsible for the affair is the person who had the affair.
Yeah.
And it's all too easy to like share the blame with somebody who is codependent and going to try and make the abuser feel better. That's my like anxiety around
it. I agree with you overall. I think it's, you say the person's a selfish prick, and that could be the case. I'd add to it that, yeah, or you are an emotionally unaware or stunted individual because, there's something going on that you are unable or unwilling to address with your partner. And so this is just a way
Mm-hmm.
around it. So there's something else
Mm-hmm.
going on there. But, not to make excuses, but there, it's probably not as black and white as you did this and you're the worst person. Not to defend someone who does this, but um, there could be reasons why that happens.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
again,
I
they may
agree.
not be great reasons, right? It's like my principal in high school said, we all have what did he used to say? It's we all excuses are like buttholes. We all have them. They all stink. Um, so I mean, they may not be great
That was
excuses.
your principal.
Yeah, our dean of students. I went to an all boys high school, so it was a Catholic high school, so it was a bit of a different experience. But that has stayed with me in 25 years later. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I guess anything else that you think that you should do if you've been cheated on? Anything that we didn't talk about?
I think, yeah, the only thing to think through is, and maybe this is where you're going next, is what do you think through in order to decide if this relationship is worth repairing or not? What are some criteria?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a couple different levels. There's just a very kind of like basic, like, all right, like, do we have kids? What's the financial,
Yeah.
like I would think through that at least. And then there's the emotional side
Yeah.
of it. Like, could I rebuild trust with some of this? And then there's probably, I don't know, a community, like, do I feel shame or something about this? Is this something I feel like I want to hide? Even if it's not my
Mm-hmm.
fault, I probably do. And so
Yeah.
there's processing at that level too. So there's just a couple different levels of, kind of reflection and trying to understand what's going on
Yeah.
before I would make that
Yeah.
decision.
And those are very like heady questions, because if you think about it, like, yeah, I mean, certainly what's my financial situation look like? What does my family dynamic look like with my kids? And, what do I think this person's emotional ability to adjust their behaviors like, or how can I trust this person in the future? Did I have a role in it or did I not have a role in it? Like all of these things there's some of them there's a lot going on. And I think to make a decision requires that you are not just reacting emotionally. So that's why I think it's important to sort of set the boundaries. I guess I should say the last thing that I would recommend is you should be talking to as many people as you can, and you should definitely be talking to a therapist.
Yeah.
Like the idea that there's an affair and you just do couples counseling, I think is a miss. I think both people should be talking to an individual therapist to help in both cases figure out, well, what does this mean for you?
Yep.
And then if you decide to stay together, then there should be a couples counselor involved. But I think the level of introspection required is significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. So let's just say that there's been an affair. What I would tell you that most often happens, I should say this, there's no data behind this, is anecdotal, is what happens frequently is somebody has an affair. Whoever was cheated on is fucking pissed. The person who had the affair is fucking sorry. And nobody knows whether or not it's going to work, but they decide we'd like to see if it's going to work.
Right.
So let's do couples counseling. So it's really like this trial period of, can I trust you ever again? What can I forgive you ever again? Like what's going to happen here? Yeah. And I would tell you that in my opinion, the answer is you will not forget, you will not forgive, and you will not trust this person again. You have to think about it like that relationship is, in my opinion, the relationship is dead. And you have to now decide, do I want to start another relationship with this person? Mm-hmm. And so you're sort of starting from scratch. You have to build trust from scratch. You have to build the dynamics of your relationship from scratch. There's a very different, I think, you need to have a different orientation to the relationship than you did before.
Right, because the assumptions that you're making or that you made previously obviously were incorrect.
Right.
And so there is a need to establish a new set of assumptions about what the relationship is and what it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this often, I would tell you, this often looks like is that the person who is cheated on wants to check in, and they need to know, they want to know more about what's going on behind the eyes of the person who had the affair. Like, what are you thinking about? That so that kind of a radical candor is required. You have to share. If you're the cheater, you have to share everything that you're feeling, everything that you're thinking, everywhere you're going, and it can feel a little bit like you are, the person who's been cheated on kind of becomes a private investigator tracking this person.
Right.
And that's what it can feel like. And when I used to work as a therapist and doing couples counseling, like the person who was the cheater, we're 9 months after the affair is going like, Jesus, can you get out of my business? I'm just going to the grocery store. Why do you need to have me on your, on your iPhone, you can do the track this
tracker.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can't have a healthy relationship if you're going to track me this way. You have to trust me. And it can feel like, God, get out of my business. But in my opinion, that kind of vigilance is required until some trust is built.
Yeah. I would say the hope there would be that there would be some expiration date for that. But as the person who was the cheater, you have to be okay with some level of that for a certain amount of time. I mean, that's just a normal reaction.
Yeah. But what's the amount of time? That's the thing. What's the amount of time
where I was saying that?
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's no one right answer to that, I don't think.
Yeah. I had a client, and I think it's been so long, so I don't know for sure, but I think it's like 2 years out, and she still was very vigilant about what you're doing, where, and the person who had the affair was like exasperated by the fact that, why is this person still writing me like this? And my sort of stance as the therapist was, well, you broke her. She wasn't that way before you did it to her. Like, that just shows you how much pain was caused by the affair. And I think, and maybe people tell me in the comments if I have it wrong, but my thought on it is, you have to create a new relationship that's going to have different boundaries and different expectations. And you that had the affair, if you don't want to be in a relationship where someone's going to ride you that way, then maybe the relationship isn't going to work out. Yeah. But as we create this new relationship, this is what you're signing on for. And it's your fault you did it, but that's what you're signing on for.
And I tried to look this up ahead of our conversation, and from what I could find, there's not a good stat here because so much depends upon the answer. But like, what is the percentage of relationships where someone engages in an affair and the relationship maintains over time, like it keeps going?
That's a good question. I don't know what the stat would be on that, and I think
I saw like
I don't know
20 to 50%. It was a very wide range.
Yeah. And then the other question is, I would love to know how many people feel like their relationship is stronger as a consequence of it.
Right.
Because I think that there is, in popular culture, this idea that if you have an affair and you re-look at your relationship and you process all of your emotions and you are more communicative and you set better boundaries, that afterwards you go like, we're actually healthier now than we were before the affair. My personal reaction would be that that's total bullshit. I think that's not true. I've never seen that happen. I think we like to say that. People like to say, oh, it's great. But I think my opinion is that the impact is so devastating and it's never better.
It does seem,
but never better.
Yeah, it does seem Pollyannish to think that would be the outcome of something like that. Maybe outside of a very small percentage of people where they learn something about both themselves and the other person that helps them be closer, that they have a certain personality that is going to allow them to even engage in that type of reflection and conversation in the first place. Like, that's a small percentage of people.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to what you're saying. Like,
Mhm.
in your example, there was 2 years where there was still like a lot of
Mhm.
the tracking and things like that. And I mean, I guess it depends on like what you want the relationship to be, and if you know how strong you want to keep the relationship. But while I said there was no right answer, like 2 years after something like that does seem like a long time. Like it
Mhm.
does seem like, all right, if that's still the state of the relationship, then it is unlikely that the individual who was cheated on is going to be able to come out the other side in a way that
Yeah.
keeps them whole.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I just don't know. Yeah, in my opinion, I just don't know if the right feedback from the therapist's perspective, from the therapist chair, I don't know if the right feedback is, hey, you better stop wanting to track this person because this person has shown that they'll hurt you. You know
Right.
what I mean? And it's like, and so I agree it's a long time. I agree that it's probably damaging on the relationship. I mean, it definitely was distressing to the husband.
Right.
Um, it's a hard one
It
to
it
like
is.
know
Again,
what the,
there's not
yeah.
a right or wrong answer again, but
Hmm.
in that situation, and I don't think I would say this as a therapist, but it would appear as if it's not working out. Like it's
Not
been
going to work.
2
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
either you two need to come to some sort of understanding of, all right, well, yeah, you've been in a relationship now for 2 years, not for 22 years or something like that.
Hmm.
What's the
Hmm.
state of this 2-year-old relationship, and
Yes.
what does
Yeah.
that
And
look
maybe
like?
the answer is this relationship's not working,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yep.
a fair response to it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. You've got me thinking about this idea of like, okay, well, how many times when there's an affair does the relationship survive? Which is a different question than how often is the relationship better or how often is the relationship worse. And I said, I've never seen it get better, which is true. I've never seen it get better. But I can imagine that it's possible that you could have an affair and then, like you said, become more self-reflective as a consequence of it. You set better boundaries, you're more appreciative of your spouse, and then the quality of the relationship is better after the affair. I guess what I'm catching myself on is I don't want to say that the affair made it better. What made it better was you deciding to value your relationship
Yes.
and you deciding to be more disciplined in your own behavior and you deciding to be more self-reflective. Because I guess I want to stop short of this. Like I said, I've seen this before where the person that was the abuser goes, hey, I screwed up. I'm so sorry. Let's just rejigger this relationship a little bit here and uh, we'll be better. And it's like, no, 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 it's not how it works. Why don't you just
Yeah.
not have the affair and go work on yourself before you do it? Right.
Right.
So I think it's possible, but I think you don't really need the affair is not a helpful add-on. You know what I mean? It's not a,
It's quite the hot
you
take,
don't
Dave.
need to
Quite the hot
do,
take. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree, but I
yeah.
think going back, you made a comment in part, our previous episode where we started talking about this. Like, at times it doesn't matter why it happened. It happened, and yeah, you're the asshole because you're
Hmm.
the one who cheated on someone. Period. End of sentence.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
again, I agree, and I think it is important to understand why it happened if there is a desire at some point to keep this thing going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's true. And I think that
But it's a
and there
separate,
are a lot
right?
of
It's like
reasons. Yeah. It's a separate thing.
it's a separate thing. Like, you acknowledge that you're the asshole in that situation, and
Yep.
then you try to figure out, why did you go do this? And then maybe have some
Yeah.
conversation with your partner. Hey, what was going on in our relationship that
Hmm. Hmm.
may have
Hmm.
led to me doing something like this? Not placing blame necessarily, but saying, well, this is what I was struggling with, and as a result, this is one of the outlets I took.
So what if the reason why the affair happened was you, my spouse, are no longer attractive to me? I'm not attracted to you. What if it's either I'm not attracted to you or you're not having enough sex with me?
So it's something physical.
That's what. That's why I had the affair.
Yeah. I mean,
What do you? How do you respond to that?
so I am. So if my partner is telling me that, what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it certainly doesn't encourage me to want to be any more physically fit. Like, I kind of still want to go fuck yourself. Like that seems like a normal reaction in
Uh-huh.
that situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think after I get over the emotional part of it, it's like, well, it does, like, the frequency of sex seems like an easier conversation to have than the you let yourself go. But that seems like an opportunity for us to discuss, well, all right, well, what's changed? Why has it changed? And why have we never talked about it?
Yeah.
Assuming that we haven't.
Yeah. 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 I think that that's the right that's the best answer, I think. Right. But I think the typical response, I guess there's two parts of it. One is that if that's how the person who cheated feels, again, like I think there's more behind that, but if that's how they feel, it can be hard to say that if that is what they think. Right. And I have, like, in my experience, I've seen people that, especially when the cheater all of a sudden gets on a fitness routine and feels like they're hot shit and the other person hasn't, and then start getting like, hey, I deserve this, I'm taking care of myself and you're not, and they feel like that's what's creating the wedge. They may feel like this is their truth and they are reluctant to say it, and then if they do say it, then the person who was cheated on feels incredible shame about the way that they look and incredible shame about the sex. And I think instead of focusing on that, I think the question should be more what you just said, which is, why is there less intimacy? Is it just because so-and-so has decided not to have sex, or is it that the other person isn't emotionally available, or not connecting with them, or not engaging with them, or whatever? There's a lot of reasons why the intimacy drops, other than, I just don't like the way that you look right now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Which I think you had a good way of framing that.
Yeah. Because it is unlikely to be just like, like it just drops. Like, there's something going on there that would probably,
you had a good
why.
You had a good point, though, that the another part of that is, well, why didn't we talk about that before?
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me that this was going on before? What about the I'm not physically attracted to you?
Fuck. That's difficult. I mean, I'll acknowledge it's difficult. I'll say that's a reason. Then at some point you have to talk about it. If, again, both of your goal is to stay or to keep the relationship going, to maintain it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be really uncomfortable for me to hear.
Yeah.
and equally uncomfortable for me to say. In that situation.
That is a, and I don't know I wish I had some kind of like, oh, here's how you respond. I don't know what the answer is there. That's a devastating one.
To me, that is where you were talking before about, engaging in a therapeutic relationship. That is a conversation that is probably best had with the facilitation of someone who can help you both say and hear that.
Yeah. Say, hear it, and recognize that it's probably less about someone's physical appearance and more about their level of confidence and the amount that you are remembering the good times, right? Because it all happens together. You get married, you have kids, you have a job, you got a big mortgage, you're stressed, and this person just becomes a roommate. And you know what I mean? It all sort of goes downhill. And the presenting problem may be, I don't feel attracted to you right now, but it's probably impacted by the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
People aren't spending time together. They're not laughing together. They're not remembering why they got together in the first place. Right. And so if you look at like the Gottman stuff, it's less about like just, getting a book on tantric sex is not the answer. The answer is work on the relationship, and the attraction will probably evolve.
And as sex comes. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes.
Yeah.
But that is it's a devastating one.
Yeah.
if that's the presenting problem. It's
Yeah,
much better if the person's an alcoholic or something. You know what I mean? If it's a
easy,
you know, an easy, like, okay, fix that is a better thing.
Yeah.
So
what else, as the person who, who cheated on your significant other, like, what else do you do in those situations? Like,
if you're the
again,
cheater,
yeah, if you're the cheater, how else do you navigate that with your spouse? What else do you do other than being there to take it, to answer questions when they're ready to ask you questions? What else is there?
I think, I think you need to become a new person. You need to, and I'm curious what you think of my steps. Grovel will be number one.
I think so.
But grovel and be prepared to grovel for the next 5 years.
Right.
Like, you're going to be, there's not like I did it for 6 months, no big deal, but your relationship is forever changed. And if they're going to stay with you, know that it's a relationship where you're not going to be trusted. You're just not. And so you have to, be accountable for what you do and why you do it. You need to be radically candor, show radical candor, like super transparent, go to therapy. Yeah. I would say, grovel, tell the truth all the time, share everything that just overshare and over communicate all the time, go to therapy, be present for your wife and your kids, or I'm assuming that it's pretty bad that in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's a guy that did this thing, but be present for your family.
Right.
I don't know. Am I missing anything? What would you do if you're the tutor?
You said go to a therapist, but I would say kind of the step. I mean, yes, that certainly would be helpful. And I can imagine if you want to keep the relationship going, there is a desire for you to want to skip ahead to the forgiveness part of it. Like, you want to move on. You want to say, I'm sorry. You want in a couple of weeks for everything to be great. But realizing, no, that you're not driving this particular car. You are solely in the passenger seat here, and you will be for a while. It's like we were saying, the time. And staying in that discomfort for a long period of time where you don't really have as much control. That's not a great emotional space to be in. And so when you were saying go to a therapist, I mean, there's a variety of reasons to do that. One of them might be, how are you managing through this situation that you have very little power in the moment? And how do you come up with some of those mechanisms to just say, or what do you need from me? Or again, maybe it's more during the groveling phase of all of this. But that's not, I imagine, for most people, a very normal space for them to be in. I can't do anything, and I'm just going to sit here in this emotional discomfort for months or maybe years, in your one example.
Yeah, that's it. I think you're right that, part of that. So the treatment is not only like, why did this happen, or what about you led this thing to happen, but also to increase your tolerance or recognition of the pain you've caused, so that you can be the person you need to be so that the relationship survives. Yeah. That's good. I don't know. I think that's it. What were you going to say?
I was going to say I just keep going back to, and even if you do all of that, it still seems unlikely that things are going to be the way that they were. And I get what you're saying. You have to start a new relationship, but at the end of the day, it's a lot easier said than done to me to say to start a new relationship versus actually doing it.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know?
I agree with you.
Do you know, either in your practice or in your personal life with families and friends, like people who've gone through that and then have stayed together?
I don't, which is probably why you can see, like, I'm skeptical, or I'm like, I just have like such a negative I've only seen it be horrible.
Yeah.
And so that's like my bias around it. I mean, I've heard stories of it working out, but I've only seen it be horrible. Have you ever seen anybody come out?
Same for me, at least for married couples. Anyone who I knew who was married and was cheated on, or there was infidelity in the relationship, was not married for much longer after that.
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's, for me, I think there's something about the trust or the contract there, because I've worked with people and know people that are in open relationships.
Sure.
Right. But it's a different contract. So it's not about the stepping out of the relationship, but it's about stepping outside of whatever the contract is that you've set in place.
Right. Because in those situations, you're not breaking trust.
Right.
That is part of the fabric of the relationship. And so it would be inherently, less impactful if that were to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes back down to, is just how difficult it is in any relationship, but particularly in a romantic relationship where you are sharing so many components of your life to come out of a trust breaking experience like that.
Yeah.
So I think
curious on this one. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, good. I was just going to say, I'll be curious on this one, what people think in the comments. I wonder if we've missed something that should be done, if you've been cheated on, or if you're the cheater, or if we've missed something as far as how to resume a healthy relationship. I'll be curious what people think.
I think that's what I'm most curious about as well, is for people who are listening and who have been in these experiences. What did we miss? And if you're able, to stay together, what helped you get through something like that? Because ultimately, Dave, I think I do have maybe one answer to the question of all this. I think the best answer to this question is probably just don't do it in the first place. I know it's I don't want to be the person who says it, but I think that's the answer, is probably don't find yourself in that situation.
That feels safer. Yes. Yeah. Hey, thank you everybody for listening to this. Please let us know in the comments what you thought. And you can always email us at shrinkspaceshow@gmail.com, or leave us, comments on Instagram and YouTube Shorts and TikTok at Shrink Space Show. So thank you all for listening.
Thanks, Dave.